Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello everyone, welcome to Imprint. I am really looking forward to introducing you to my guest today on the podcast. Alana Fletcher is someone that I have met this year through Design and Grow, my group coaching program. And we talk about that journey, but also why I wanted to share her with you today, because she is such a wealth of knowledge and experience, is for that reason that Alana has been working as an interior designer for more than 16 years now, coming up to 2 decades in this industry, and does have an incredible breadth of experience. And she has been such an incredible sounding board within the Design and Grow community. And so we talk about, really honestly about how she has grown her business, how she has priced her services, why she has kept her team deliberately small, how she has set up boundaries, the lessons that she's learned along the way. And I really feel that you're going to get a lot of value out of today's episode. So please enjoy my conversation with Alana Fletcher. Hi, Alana. I am so excited to have you on the podcast. We've just been chatting away for probably too long.
We have.
Catching on all the things, because Alana is an incredible member inside Design and Grow that I've loved getting to know more this year. And she has got so much experience and wisdom that I wanted to share with all of you on the podcast. So we are going to get into Alana and her story. I will have explained this to you in the intro, but she's an interior designer who's based in Canada, and we'll get into more of the details about that shortly. But I always like to start kind of at the beginning. So Alana, can you share a little bit about where you grew up and were you creative as a child? What are the threads that got you to where you are today?
Hi, Natalie. Thanks so much for having me. I always love talking to you, so I appreciate any opportunity, and this is so great. Well, I guess my journey to where I am now is, I was thinking about it earlier today, and it's really crazy to go back and to think about it. But I grew up on a 50-acre plot of land in Niagara, which is just outside of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. And my parents built the house, and we weren't farmers, but we really did a lot of outdoor activity all the time. And when I was 3.5, I started ballet, and that was really my dream. I was a dancer. I just wanted to be a ballerina for my whole life. And my whole childhood was basically dancing and music. And then I got into acting. My whole family is artistic. My parents they actually met, they were folk singers, and that's how they met. My brother is an amazing writer. So he does that for a living. He actually writes comic books. So we grew up in this household of, this ability to kind of walk outside, and you could make up your own story, and you could live vicariously through, anything that was going on outside. It was just an incredible opportunity as a child. It was like the most idyllic childhood. And we live about 2 kilometers from Lake Erie. So we were able to spend time at the beach, and everything was just beautiful and fun and great. I danced for a long time, and then I had an injury. So I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I injured my foot, and I wasn't able to dance at all for about a year. And I went to Toronto with my family for the CNE, which is a Canadian National Exhibition. and it's filled with different vendors and buildings that are, there were things going on. And anyway, I was standing in one and I got scouted to model. And I was 12 years old. And it was one of those terrifying situations that your parents tell you about when you're young, like don't talk to people that come up to you. And I had this man come up to me and ask a bunch of questions, and I ran to my mom and got her to come over. And anyway, long story short, it wasn't a scam. I ended up modeling. I spent most of my teenage years traveling back and forth between my little hometown of Wainfleet here in Niagara and Tokyo and Australia. And, my summer job was going off and modeling. And then I would come home and go to school and I would model during the year as well. And so I've always kind of just been surrounded by just creative endeavors, photographers, makeup artists, stylists, art directors, creative directors. It was constant, just watching the lighting. Just everything was an unbelievable learning opportunity. I lived by myself at 14 in Tokyo. I had roommates, but I was living, I left my parents let me go, and I flew across the world and kind of landed in this lap of, it was everything that was so foreign to me. Big buildings, tons of bright lights and cars and noise. I grew up on this 50 acres of, field. And all of a sudden I was just in awe of what was available, what the potential, just the potential of everything. I had never seen buildings that were like I had seen in Japan, the way that things were laid out, how people lived, everything had a place. I was so inspired. I was just completely in awe. And I honestly, at that point, I went to university, but I think I just had the travel bug, and I wanted more. I just wanted to see more. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be part of the world. I didn't want to just be stuck here. And I had the opportunity and I kind of took it. So I actually moved to Australia for a while and worked there as well and had a great time. I came back. I moved to Toronto and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was still modeling, but I needed more. Now I needed, I don't know, I needed to learn about business. I needed to know, I just needed something different. And I actually, through meeting photographers and stylists, I started producing. I started styling and producing photo shoots. And what an opportunity that was. And that just, what I gained, and I think I did that for 10 years. What I gained in that time was unbelievable education and experience, working with all of these different personalities, all of these different creatives, bringing people together, sitting down and listening to how people thought, what it was that made them tick, figuring out, how we could get something done with X amount of dollars on this kind of a deadline. I was just, it was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity. I ended up moving into production doing mostly homewares. So we have a magazine here in Canada called House and Home. And they had a line of bedding that was at a local department store. So I would produce these photo shoots, and we oftentimes had to build sets. And so this is where it all started. I was fascinated with this. I would, spend the time, we'd sketch things up, we'd get approvals, we'd do the budgets up, we'd work with the construction team, we'd build these rooms, bedrooms, dining rooms, whatever it was in our studio. And that was it. I got the itch, and I just didn't turn back with the interiors. It was just so fascinating to me that we could take these sketches and these drawings and these ideas and actually make them into tangible, amazing spaces. And because it was a creative endeavor and we didn't really have homeowners, we were just really able to kind of go out and build things out. They were different. They were interesting. They pushed the envelope a little bit, and it really was an incredible experience. So that's how it all started, and that's how I got in my windy way into interior design.
I never knew that about the modeling. Isn't it funny? I mean, I knew you had worked in for production and photo shoots and the styling side of things. And it just goes to show, doesn't it? It's so fascinating to learn of people's journeys.
I don't talk about it very much.
But I can also appreciate how much you must have absorbed. I was just explaining actually to my son the other day about this idea of osmosis, that you can absorb. And I was trying to explain to him what osmosis means, and just absorbing things by fact of being there, and how much you must have absorbed by being in Japan. As you were saying that, I'm sort of mentally trying to flick through your work, and I'm thinking, can I see any kind of element of that, or the simplicity of Japanese design, or I don't know. I'm just curious, how those things filter through.
It absolutely informs my sensibilities, because everything has a place there. It's materiality. It's using less is more, right? And really, I mean, the physical space of your room or your home or your hotel room or wherever it is that you go, everything has a space. Everything has a purpose. You walk in, it makes sense. It's intuitive. I love their design is intuitive. I think we've lost that here. I don't find it in a lot of houses here. It seems kind of clunky. And I love that. And it has informed how I see spaces when I go through. And obviously not everybody loves the Japanese, maybe you're traditional or you're mid-century modern or whatever it is. But the solutions-based formulas that kind of go through my head, I think definitely I spent all in all about a year living in Tokyo, over 4 years. And it definitely impacted everything about me.
That's
everything.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
and such a I don't know if it's seminal age is the right word, but that time where you're really kind of your eyes are opening to the world, and a really consequential age to sort of have that type of exposure, which is really interesting as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I had come from this small town where my parents built the house. It was a raised bungalow. It's, on this big acreage. And if anybody out there has a big acreage, you spend most of your time outside because there's always something that needs to be done. So I didn't grow up in a house where anything was precious, or we were, worried about the size of our baseboards or what the hardware looked like. It was just very functional. And it didn't matter. It was more like we need to, hey, we need to do something with the septic or do something with the driveway or whatever it was, right? So it was a really amazing opportunity for me as a kid. And my parents always said, it was something that they couldn't have given me as a young adult. and the opportunity that was provided for me through that modeling experience was something that has absolutely shaped my life. 100%. Yeah.
So you, like you say, you then kind of started to work in production and styling and getting your foot into the world of interiors at that point. At what point did you then transition to doing interior design? And did you ever feel the need, because I know that this is something that comes up a lot for people, did you go to school to study interior design? Did you feel the need to do that? I know lots of people get caught up on this, like that I need to do this. I don't necessarily agree. I think there's many different ways to get there. But how did you then transition from doing producing and styling to then working with interior design clients?
Yeah. So the transition was this. It actually happened after I had my second child, my daughter. And I had gone back to work. She was about 3 weeks old, maybe 4 weeks old. And I was doing a production, and it was a 2-week shoot. And we had, I think, 4 or 5 crews between studio and location. And I burnt myself out. I mean, obviously, I just had a baby. So, and my son was 6 years old at the time. So, it was busy time. And I kind of just decided I'd like to, try something new. And what I had learned from my styling and production was how to rent furniture and accessories. So I had a really great roster of places that I could go to and pull from. And I actually started doing home staging and styling. And so that was kind of my first foray into, out of production and into interiors. And it was for a client who had a condo in downtown Toronto and needed it. He bought it, didn't live in it, wanted to sell it, but wanted it to be staged. So that was how it started. It was one client who just believed in me and said, sure, go for it. And I was able to quote out, I knew how much things would cost for a 30-day rental because I had been working in production. So I had that information. I had movers. So that was great because, again, it had come from my past experience. And then it was just trying to figure out how much do I charge for what I'm doing? And that was just hit and miss. Those early days, some things worked and some things didn't. Some I probably lost money on. I'm sure I did. But the experience I gained was huge because, going back to the second part of your question, I did not go to school for interior design. So I'm self-taught. And I took a very long journey in my learning. And I've listened a lot, and I've leaned on a lot of tradesmen, contractors. And I also don't work by myself, and I have somebody who is an interior designer and an architectural technologist who does all of our drawings.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a moment because I do want to ask you about, keeping your team small and who, how you went about hiring and so on. So just then a little bit more on the pricing. So like you say, you learned what worked, what didn't work. And so what were some of those kind of key lessons for you, and how has your pricing evolved over the years? Because I mean, this is the thing that, we were just joking before that on the Leanne Ford interview, which I can link in the show notes, but a few interviews ago, I mean, even she's sort of saying like, I don't know, I mean, it's sort of like this thing of people really still in the industry, I think because we don't come together, and I think that people don't talk about this enough. And that's why I like talking about it on the podcast, because there's this real reluctance for people to talk about it and share about it. And I think there's this huge scarcity mindset about it as well. Like people are worrying about like, well, I might lose jobs. I don't know what it is like, but anyway, how is your relationship with, or what have been some of your big lessons, and how has your pricing evolved over the years?
So the pricing, I've probably tried every single pricing. Like if you Google how do interior designers price, I've probably tried every single one of them at least 3 or 4 times. And I believe they all have their pros and cons. And I believe that it really does come down to what works best for your team and yourself. And I think also a lot of it has to do with how you personally, how dedicated you are to pressing that button and timing yourself. If you're going to charge hourly, like boom, I'm sitting down and I'm working on X project. Because I know for a lot of us, we do work, like I might be sourcing for 3 projects and looking at lighting for 3 projects at the same time. But it doesn't start off that way. And I think that that's the big key. And I think that this is something that after speaking with a lot of the members of D&G too, and a lot of the women who are so talented and full of so many wonderful, they're just so talented, these women that you've brought together. Anyway, you have to know how long things take. So regardless of what you're doing and how far, if you're just starting out, charge by the hour. Figure out how long things take for you to do. If you hire somebody, bill them out by the hour, or, because you need to figure out how long things take. You get better at a lot of things. You get faster at a lot of things as you go on. But you still have to know how long it takes you to, build a kitchen from scratch. How long does that take you? How long does it take you to generally source for a living room? When you know that, I think that you're better able to change or to add or to modify your billing at that point.
Yeah.
Personally, I love doing a percentage-based billing. And that means for our design work, we charge a percentage of the construction. And this is for construction work. We're pretty clear with our hours. Our biggest unknown is always our clients and how our communication is going to be. But we're prepared for that. So for us, I do a hybrid billing system where we do a percentage base for design, and then anything beyond, once the design is in, if we're doing any site visits, they're billed hourly. If you need us more, if you need more support, we're there for you. If not, that's okay too. Some projects, as we all know, some go smoother than others. Some have hiccups. And there's requirements that, clients maybe are out of town. They need you to be there on site more often. We can't know that if we start a project 9 or 10 months or 15 months in advance. We don't know what's going to be happening. So I've found that taking that question mark off of my plate and just being clear about our hours, and then we bill hourly, and I bill those clients once a month.
And what about,
because that's what works for us.
Yeah. And what about because you are based slightly remotely out of Toronto now, and I'm not sure the location of your clients. So how do you charge, say, travel time when, if, for instance, you've got clients who, or you're going to source, I guess that would probably be built into your design part of your project. You see what I'm
That's
like?
correct.
Like, so what are you, like, if you're traveling to go sourcing, if you're traveling to site, maybe the client lives somewhere else and you're meeting them somewhere else. How do you work out what is hourly for that and what is built into the design fee?
So for me, because I have been up until the last 5 years, I was based out of Toronto, and then I moved back. I'm back on my farm. And that my Toronto clients, I don't bill for my time to get back there, because to me, this is my choice that I live here. If there's a client that's outside of because of where we are in the Great Lakes, and the GTA and Niagara are all within an hour and a half of each other. So our service area is specified. So we do Niagara through to Toronto. If it's past Toronto, north of Toronto, west of here, then I would charge travel time to go see the clients, and that would be billed at half rate.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, there are actually lots of people that I come across, or I meet, and they say, well, I don't live, in the city. And I think increasingly people are not living in the city. So as a service provider, these are questions that we definitely need to think about and ask about. And so
that was a concern for me, for sure. Yeah. But it's okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about your team, because as you mentioned, you work with someone who does have that more technical background in terms of their skill set. At what point did you start looking to hire somebody, or was he your first hire? Have you had other people working with you? And was it intentional to get somebody to do the technical side of things? Because there are lots of different ways that you can go when you have that first hire, and who that might be. So what did that look like for you?
So going back, Lucas is who I work with, and Lucas is incredible. And thanks, Lucas, for everything you do. Lucas isn't the first person that I've worked with, though. So going back, I would say after going back 17 years and doing the staging, and then that slowly transitioned into doing, a friend's bathroom, because your first client is generally always somebody that and that trusts you, and you can kind of work through, and hopefully you take something that's, within your scope that you can manage out, because it's a huge learning curve. And I'm sure even for the people that have graduated school, it's still, there's a lot to learn from book to being on site. So, a small bathroom, hand sketching things, delivering those papers to the contractor and to the mill worker with the vanity. And really for me, it was sitting down and listening to them and going through and asking, what is it that you need from me? What do you need from me to do your job to the best of your ability, and to make this process as easy as possible? Which I'm sure if I had been at school, I would have found out. But the people are very happy to tell you, they're sitting there. They're like, no, this is great, but these are the things that, that I need to know. Our millwork drawings are always, we do our own millwork drawings. So we're going to take this from you and we're going to do this. Oh, okay, great. So you get used to this kind of, you're working with people that are teaching you and you're learning from, if you listen and ask questions, which I've always been able to do. And I appreciate every single person who has helped me along the way and had the patience to, to help me grow into who I am today. Because I wouldn't be as good at what I do if I didn't have all of those people kind of getting behind me and helping. Then as the job slowly got bigger, Natalie, it became so apparent that hand sketches are not okay. Like, you can't do it. You just can't do it. So, one of the first people that I worked with, there were a couple, and they're fantastic, and I still talk to them today. They're wonderful. Can I say their names?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Keely McCleary, she's an incredible designer out of Toronto. I love her work. I follow her. I'm always so happy to see anything that she posts. She's amazing. And Joe Mesa, who kind of was one of the first people who introduced me to the incredible importance of 3D renderings. He was really early adapter to it. And I was very lucky to work with Joe. And he still does incredible work, and his stuff is great. He focuses a lot on dental. He's really specialized, and he does just incredible work. And Keely's out on her own, so she's got her own company. And I luckily was introduced to Lucas through another designer that was working with me named Eric Estevez. And they're both Brazilian, if you can believe it. And they had moved to Canada. And Lucas was somebody who at the time was young, in school, learning the language, just an incredibly hard worker, and somebody who was inspiring just to be around because of how dedicated he was to being the absolute best at his job and doing the best for the company, which is something that you don't find very often. And Lucas and I have been working together, it's got to be 10 years. And he just keeps getting better and better.
Amazing.
And we almost don't need to speak. Like we kind of communicate through, like, you know, I had a call today. I then with a client, I called him. We discussed something. We had the exact same solution. The two of us are just so, it's a wonderful journey with him. He's great.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And so talking about, growing your business and getting those bigger and bigger jobs and those more and more clients, how has that part of the process evolved for you as well? Because like you say, often, many designers start with helping out a family friend or some kind of person within the local community. And did it just all grow by referral? And what does that look like now? Is it still mainly referral, or are there other ways that you're getting leads when you're working with clients?
It was mainly referral. And luckily, a lot of the referrals came through our trade network. So contractors, mill workers, electricians, and then it would be other clients would suggest us to other people. But I found my most consistent feed is from contractors that we've worked with. And it's always great because we have good relationships. We've got that past. We know how they kind of know my design sensibilities. I know how their teams work, which is great because it's always hard to start fresh with a new team. It's exciting and you always learn something, and it's wonderful. And hopefully you make new connections and new contacts. But those going back to, having these people that you've worked with and you've got history with, you really do find you're so in sync, and the expectations are there for a great project throughout the whole thing. And I always feel that the clients seem to be most receptive because there is an inherent trust between everybody, which it's essential for a project to work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely.
To go well. Yeah.
And so can we talk about then a little bit about your process? So what programs are you using? What does that process look like when you are now onboarding a client? You're working on several projects at once. What is the process that you're kind of going through to manage these multiple projects and kind of create that exceptional experience?
So for us, because it's just the two of us, we can only really take so many clients on per year. And so, there's always a little bit of a juggle of, where are we at in existing projects? What do we have that's upcoming? What is the scale of that project? And just the overall timeline, for example. And so you're trying to piece things in and make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself at any point in your process. And again, you never know how things are going to go once construction starts. So there's always this moment of like, is everything going to be okay? What we have done, I would say we've really tightened up our process in the past 5 years. COVID was very busy for us. We were insanely busy. And at that time too, my dad was very ill and I was taking care of him. So we really had to be on top of everything. So what we found to be things that repeatable processes, things that we deal with all the time, in your onboarding process, welcome packages. So really sitting down and going through, what is it that we say all the time? What is it that we need to say? What are the hangups that we have that are the hardest things for us to communicate with our clients? Like, hours of business, best ways to communicate, how we bill, things you might see on your bill. Because even though we do a flat rate, we sometimes will itemize things or just have things on there. We, we want to be as clear as possible. We want people to have that time to not be bamboozled, to be able to sit down and go through and be comfortable. I always say to our potential clients, we're going to be in a relationship. We are going to be in your home at very vulnerable times for you. When you're going through, a very difficult process. Maybe you have to move out. Maybe you've got pets. Maybe you want to get back in your house sooner than you're able to. People get frustrated. Things can be quite challenging, and we need to know that we can communicate. We need to know that, if you need something, you can pick up the phone or send a civil email, because sometimes these things don't happen. We get, things can get heated. People can be emotional. And we, as we're vetting the clients and the projects, we really have to feel good about how we fit together. And do they trust us? Do they understand the process? Do they understand if things are added on, that's an addition? Do they understand that if something happens during construction that's unforeseeable, that we may have to make changes to the design? So it's really just about, we tried to just put together all of these things into email PDFs that we can send to people, that we update yearly or, every 6 months if we have to give to our clients. Here's a welcome package. Here's how our fees work. Here's your proposal. Here's, the scope of your project. Here's how much it's going to cost. This is how much you have to pay at each, your fee schedule. We've kind of got everything down and in something that can be sent out, because doing the same thing over and over is not a good use of time.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I used to do it. I know.
So what are you using in terms of managing the project? Like, what programs are you using? What software? People always love to know these things.
Mm-hmm. So we were an very early adapter. We bought into Ivy, which is now House.
Right, yeah.
And we've been with them since the beginning. And honestly, it's worked out really well. We've gone through some of the bumps with them because at the time, it was primarily just for US. So we had a lot of issues with the Canadian dollar, US dollar taxes, things like that. All of that's worked out now, and we're able to do billing through that. We love how easy it is to add in new items, new services. We have all of our tradespeople in there. We send our POs through there. It just keeps everything on track, and it takes a huge headache off of the business because it's all in one place. And it's on our phones. So we've got, you can upload your drawings to it now. It's great.
I wanted to ask you actually, when you were mentioning about projects, blowing out because of timelines, things happen in construction that can't be foreseen.
Yes.
So when you talk about billing as a percentage of the construction cost, I presume that's what you mean, the construction cost. Is that the estimate cost? Like, because obviously, let's just say, I'm just going to pull out a number. So let's say that, a particular project, the client has been told by the contractor that this is going to be a 500,000 build, let's just say. Or maybe I'll say 100,000 just to make it easy for the maths. There's nothing, what are you going to get for $100,000 these days? So anyway, let's just say $100,000. And so you charge a percentage. So if, for instance, something happens and obviously now it's like this project is more like 150 or it's gone up to double 200, like how are you then adjusting your fees? And are you having to be in relationship with the contractor to kind of know when things are changing, and how do you alert the customers, like if you're going with that kind of process? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And we've had it happen both ways, where the project is more and sometimes the project is under, and we will adjust up or down. So if it's less, we will adjust our fees. And if it's more, we adjust our fees. It's not always the greatest conversation. You don't want to have that conversation. But when we come in to a project, oftentimes maybe their contractor's not been in contact with the client yet. Maybe the contractor has and has given a rough estimate. And this is, again, going back to, having good communication with your client, and maybe something that we could talk about just starting earlier with clients as well. But really, we can't give a definitive budget until we have everything designed, sourced, and priced out. So we can get a pretty good idea of what the job will cost. But yeah, we have had to make adjustments, and we will normally do any adjustments just at the end of the project as a one-time adjustment fee, either back to the client or to us. It has worked because I believe that the clients that have used that are billed this way, they see the value in what we're doing. If you're bringing your designer in early enough, and you understand the value of that design, and you understand that the amount of money that can be saved by having your designer make decisions that through the process that save you money, like you are saving money by having an efficient, well thought out design plan that's already sourced, that's already been priced out, that, you've got your product. You've got somebody there that's able to navigate any kind of like, we've opened the wall and we can't do this, right? You've got somebody there that can make a decision like that retains the integrity of your design and provides that solution with no stress to the client, or hopefully no stress or less stress to the client. But there has to be that trust, and there has to be that understanding. The biggest reason that I did go to the fee, the percentage fee for the design fees, is because it allows the client to not have any surprises. They're not getting one bill 1 month and getting they're expecting 40 or 50 hours of design, and boom, it's 150 hours or something. Because really, they don't know. And when I did bill hourly, I would always give an estimate of what my hours were. And I'm sure a lot of designers do, but I still think for a client that's going through a massive renovation that has all of these unknowns, knowing every month or at every certain touch point what you have to pay for that service, it takes a lot of stress out of the process. I'm getting this, I get all my design decisions, here's, I'll pay you, thank you. You know, you're getting what you need, I think.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting. I'm just curious about how you, when you mentioned obviously about the unforeseen things can come up, then how you navigate that with the clients. So, I mean, this sort of touches on a little bit of both of those things. You mentioned when you have your onboarding process about, in some ways, you're kind of vetting the clients and the projects to see, because like you say, these are projects that you can be working on for a long time. You know, how much are you actually vetting people and sort of turning people away? I was just curious about that, because obviously you are more established in your interior design business. And this also loops back into what we were just saying a moment ago and talking about before the interview started, which was this idea of, you shared on Instagram recently on stories, and it just resonated so much with me, about how you're working on a project at the moment and it's about a year off, and how wonderful this is. And I'm in a similar situation with a client as well. And I've kind of got both. I've got somebody who's really on the back foot and decisions are being made and mistakes are being made. And it's very stressful for that person because it is also last minute, rather than pausing to, it's a whole story in and of itself. But, you know, the joy of working on something where it's in advance, and that actually it is, like you say, you know, it is more efficient and cost effective. And how can we educate people about that? So is that in that vetting stage where perhaps you are looking to work with somebody and really understanding, do they get this? Do they understand that? They're kind of two sides of, I guess, of the same thing, but I'm just curious on your perspective of that, about the vetting and, you know, trying to get people to appreciate the long-term view.
Yeah, I think the vetting clients, it's always, I mean, I think you have a gut feeling about people when you meet them. I've been wrong at times. I'm sure, you know, everybody has. I also think that we never really know how people are and how they deal with stress, right? That's a big one, because sometimes people can be a completely different person when they're under stress. So a lot of that comes back to how we then as designers deal with what gets put on us from our clients. And it's very easy, if you're a person like me, this has been one of my biggest lessons, I suppose, in my life, is to not take other people's stress on myself, and to try not to take things personally, and to really just know that I have the solution if I'm given the space. So, you know, I think that it's kind of, there's two parts to it. There's that initial feeling of how you meet somebody and you think, oh, this is an exciting project, and really asking them the questions of, you know, what is it that you're looking to do? Are you, you know, are you and your partner, because there's normally more than one person, are you guys on the same page? Something I've found that's been exceptionally helpful for us is that we like to have one person that's the person that gives us the direction. So they talk about it, and one person is our kind of like the spokesperson of the family that delivers the information to us. It takes away the back and forth and the, well, I didn't actually, well, you know, and you get like undercurrents of unhappiness sometimes between the family members. So we try to just ask the right questions on that initial meeting, and make sure that we feel comfortable that we can communicate with them, that they understand as best they can the process, and that even if they don't get it, if they've never done it before, that they're still able to communicate with us if they have questions or concerns. the one thing that's very difficult is when you have people that fly off the handle. It's never good, because then how do you come back from that, right? How do we as designers feel about being, maybe yelled at or things? It's happened to me. It's not pleasant, and it really it can make things, it can sour a relationship and a project, and that's unfortunate. I don't know another job where people feel like they can, speak poorly to other people like this, but it does happen. And I know I've spoken to enough other designers that it's something that having your processes in place, having your boundaries written down, having what you will, what is acceptable, what is unacceptable in a paper that people initial sign off on is important for your own safety, security of doing a project. Some, you don't know. And it really helps to educate your clients. And I think that going back to that conversation that we were having earlier, just about what can you do? Have your processes. Have your processes in place. Have everything that you do written down, and know where your boundaries are, because your boundaries are what's going to save you. And if you have a bad experience, step back, take ownership of your part in it, because it's always a relationship. We maybe could have communicated more. We could have done something better. And then build that into your next process, or update your process, right? Keep things current, and just do your best, because it is a relationship, and it's a long one.
So what are your boundaries? I'm curious, like, what are the things that do you try and, discourage clients from calling you all the time, or you open to people calling you, texting, I think like the calling, the texting, long streams of emails, like these are kind of, I guess, the things where you can spend your entire time just managing those things if you're not careful. So how do you approach boundaries in relation to communication?
And this is all of mine are through just terribly failing at this, having people call me on a Sunday because they're at a store and they want to know if the sofa will fit through their door. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm at the park with my daughter. Like, I don't know what's happening. So yeah, texting. I try to discourage texting unless it's something that is, I'm running late, or could we, oh, hey, sorry, I can't make today's meeting, like immediate kind of stuff. I like to have everything in an email thread, like to keep everything in an email thread. Phone calls, let's schedule them. We don't need to just call, like just schedule something. What I've done is I've scheduled myself. This is how I've kind of remedied this and put my boundary in place. I was the designer that basically, like, if you called me, Natalie, and you needed something today, I'd try to get there, because I wanted to be proactive, and I wanted to make sure that we were getting things done and that you were happy. I've realized that made me so terribly unhappy, because I was getting nothing done because I was running around. So now I have my week scheduled, and of course I'm not completely rigid. Sometimes things have to change because of other people's schedules, but like my Mondays they're my sit at home and do my billing and get caught up on any paperwork, and my business, trying to work on my business instead of just, for everybody else. I do site visits on Fridays. I love a site visit Friday. I think it's great. We'll try to do any kind of sourcing. We'll do, a Tuesday or Wednesday, but I like to kind of have a couple of days where we're definitely working on projects, and we're not necessarily being pulled out of the office because you can't get anything done. Because we're a small team. It's just the two of us. So I'm sure if we had a whole other army of people, it would be a different scenario. But for me, and my life and what's worked for us, this has been a really good boundary to put into place.
And you've deliberately
you
deliberately kept your team small as well, haven't you? Rather than
I
bringing
did.
on other people to take on more projects. What was the big reason behind that?
The biggest reason for me was my kids. I was a single mom, and I honestly just didn't want to be so busy that I couldn't be there for them. It's a big reason that I, kept going with my business was because I was a single mom, and it allowed me the freedom to, go do pizza Fridays and to reschedule things if my kids were sick. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of. I mean, my son's 24 and my daughter's 18, and I feel like I made it. I've been doing this since my daughter was 2 years old. So it's been the most amazing kind of evolution in my life. It's just allowed me so much freedom and creativity. And my kids, I think, have learned a lot by watching and they've been on enough site visits. They should know how to build a house by now, or at least source stuff for it. It's been great. It's been great.
You were sharing on Instagram as well the other day. I love following you on Instagram. You've got so many good little insights and tips and so on that you share. And you were sharing also about rendering and how that can really help a client make decisions. What are some of the design programs that you use within your business, and how do you help clients again see the value of investing in these kind of elements of the design process? I still think that there are some people, and maybe it depends on the types of clients that you're working with, but they can see that as maybe fluff, or it's like, oh, it's nice, but it's just like, it's an unnecessary element, and it's sort of, they just want, like, let's just go with the plans. We don't need to have photorealistic renderings. How do you think that's a benefit in the design process, and how do you, educate your clients about the benefits of it as well and paying for it essentially?
Yeah, I think that they speak for themselves. And I think because we have done so many wonderful projects, and Lucas is like a whiz. He's incredible. And so we started doing, SketchUp kind of renderings. And then now we use V-Ray. And what we're able to do for our clients to everybody that has had these photorealistic renderings, their minds are blown when they walk into their finished house and they see how it looks exactly like this image that they were given months and months ago, because we render with the exact tile, right? It's not just like an AI kind of generated image. These are the exact tile, the exact wood that we're using, down to the stain. We use the lights, like everything that we're using is the stuff that will be in the client's house, provided that they've said, yes, we want that stuff in our house. And I think once we show clients now, new potential clients, you can have this option or you can have this option. They all kind of go, oh, well, I see the benefit of seeing what this looks like in real life, because I will have no questions about what my space will look like. And because we can actually show them real photographs of what the end result is. And it it's still the most incredible thing to me when we walk through again and we see those renderings and we see the space. I will forever just be in awe of what we're able to do now. You know, it's just incredible.
And as you mentioned before, when you're talking about how you spend your time each week, as you say, you know, one of the things that you do on Mondays is working on your business. And I know that you often sort of share that that's the time when you're sort of working on things from within Design and Grow. As we mentioned, you know, you're one of the members, very valued member of the program. I'd love to kind of get your insight onto how it has helped you this year with your business and what benefit has been of being within such a program, and what also you've been working on as part of this time in the program. And we can talk about that a little bit as well.
Well, your program, Design and Grow, has just been such an incredible opportunity. Being surrounded by other creative women has been such a growth opportunity for me. I have always felt like a little bit, I think maybe because I didn't go to school, I always felt a little like, oh, you know, maybe I don't belong here. Maybe this isn't my thing, even though I love what I do and I'm great at what I do. And I still have these moments of self-doubt, which I'm sure most people do. And when it's like, when I came into this room, this virtual room of women, I felt like I had found another home. I felt like I had a place where everything that I have learned and the things that I would love to expand on in my life, everything just all of a sudden made sense. And it was something that I haven't had ever in my life. And you split us up into little pods, and the women that I meet with are so inspiring, and I love what they're doing. And I love the feedback that they give me, and they have let me see a side of myself that maybe I hadn't even thought about before, which was which is crazy, but as I'm sitting here talking to you, but it's more of a mentorship role with some of the up and coming designers, and very flattering. Like it's such a flattering thing to be told. But as you get further and deeper into this, like Natalie, the people, everybody's looking for support. All of us are looking for feedback. People are starting out or maybe a couple years in, and they want to give up. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to move forward. They don't know how to build from where they were. And there's so much opportunity there, and there isn't a scarcity of jobs. There's so much room for all of us. And I feel like you're just scratching the surface with what you're doing. And I feel like where we are, where I am, where I'm growing to, I just feel like I'm scratching the surface on what I'm able to do in my future. I'm building out some one-on-one mentorships, which we're redoing the website right now. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to helping people not feel so alone on their journey, because really, we don't need to. We really don't need to gatekeep this information. You know, we really need more community in this, and we need places where people can come together and maybe have some accountability for what it is that they want to do and want to work on, and want to grow to. And that's what I'm really looking to do in my future, is to, aside from doing my design, is to really help other women, because I think I had the tenacity, and I just was so stubborn, and I had no choice because I had my kids and I was working. I just wasn't going to stop. but I think some people maybe don't have that. And it's always nice to have a friend in your corner, right?
Absolutely. And I think you're such a valued member of Design and Grow, and we have had you sort of come in and give like a special, we did a special member spotlight where I interviewed you within the program and you shared, and and I think that's the wonderful thing about when we come together as a group, like what is it, the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts, or whatever the saying is, you know what I mean? Like when you bring a group of people together, it's not just those individual people, but it actually becomes something bigger than that. And for those of you who are kind of interested with connecting with Alana, we'll put her Instagram contact details in the show notes, and definitely encourage you to go along and follow her, because she's got so much wisdom and insights and just a beautiful grounding presence and personality. So definitely go and check out Alana's Instagram, which is at Alana Fletcher Interiors. Now, before you go, I wanted to ask you the last questions that I ask everyone. Let's let's do it.
All right.
Okay. The first is, which 5 words best describe you?
Oh, okay. I'd have to say hardworking. I'm passionate. I'm stubborn, dedicated, and I would say I'm brave.
Yeah, that's great.
Those are my 5. Yeah.
What's one of the best lessons that you've learned on your journey so far?
One of my best lessons, I'd say, is to listen to people when they tell you who they are, or better yet, when they show you who they are.
What's one of your proudest achievements?
That one's easy. Definitely running this business while being a single mom, like hands down. I don't actually know how I did it.
I know. And that's what I sort of say to people. I mean, I sometimes there's a bit of a tough love to some people that, like they're finding things challenging. And I think sometimes when you do have your back against the wall a little bit, you have to dig deep, and you have to become this person who will figure it out. Like, we don't always all have the answers, but like you say, to have that grit, to have that determination, to be stubborn, to be resilient, to realize that, okay, like, I've had this setback, but I'm just going to keep on and I will work it out. And I think it's such a good characteristic to develop in yourself as a person. And sometimes we're forced into it, but I think other times we kind of have to embrace it. Because I think sometimes, if our life is a little bit softer, it can be hard to kind of like draw upon that. You know what I mean? So I think in a way, what's been your challenge has also been your blessing.
I would agree. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What's been one of your best decisions?
One of my best decisions, in my business, 100% Lucas Alves, my best decision in this business, 100%.
Who inspires you?
So for me, I think about who inspires me, and I don't think that there's just like a person that I could name, but it's more just people, I think, that go after their dreams. That just stay true to themselves, and they just go after their dreams. I even think about, I know it's kind of silly, like even on Instagram, I always am so impressed by these people who can kind of break the mold, and they just are a little bit ballsy, and they do their own thing, and they create their own path. I haven't got there yet. I feel like sometimes I can't do it, but I'm so inspired by those people, and I do enjoy watching and hearing about and reading about people that just really are unwaveringly themselves, and they just go. And I love that. I love it.
What are you passionate about?
Well, passionate about a lot of things, but totally off brand from interiors. I'm very, very passionate about natural health and just being just very aware of what we're consuming, purchasing, putting on our bodies, putting in our bodies. Very passionate about it. I think as I've told you, I've had, my dad was quite sick and lost him just in 2022, but it makes a huge kind of impact on you when you're kind of stuck in any kind of healthcare scenario for a long time with somebody. And I think it impacted me in that way, where I just really want to be healthy. And that's my passion, is just making sure that we're as natural as possible.
Yeah. I don't think that's too off brand for interiors, because I think it's so much of that begins in the home. But yeah,
true. Very true.
Completely on the same page with you there. What dream do you still want to fulfill?
There's so many. I'd love to travel again. I haven't traveled for quite some time. I spent most of my younger years, as I mentioned when we first started chatting, traveling the world. And then I had my kids and I've been working, and I haven't traveled much since. So I'd love to travel. And I would really, really love to get my next kind of phase up and going, where I'm supporting up and coming younger women, or women even my age that are breaking in, or whatever age, into this industry. And that I think that would just be so fulfilling.
What are you reading? What's on your nightstand or your coffee table? Do you enjoy reading books or flicking through coffee table books? What is it for you?
I have so many books. I have all your books. I have everybody's books. I love books. I don't have a ton of I find I don't have a ton of time for sitting down and reading novels latterly in my life, but I am reading, and actually it was one of your selections too, is the Rick Rubin Creative Act. I've been going through that. So that's beside my bed, and that's kind of like a nightly flick through, read a little bit, fall asleep.
It's a good one to dip into, isn't it?
Love it.
It's like, because it's like,
love it.
Yeah, piecemeal. So it's really easy to read.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I also love magazines still. I wish I still had magazine shops I could go into.
Yeah. Well, it's a dying art, isn't it?
I miss them. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you listening to? Do you enjoy listening to podcasts? And if so, which ones?
Well, I listen to your podcast. I listen to music more in the car. And I am highly influenced by what the kids are listening to. I love like Clairo, and the new Tyler, the Creator, just came out, and Boy Genius. But I also love like old Radiohead and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Fleetwood Mac, And I still have the music. I think it comes from the parents, right?
I was going to say that. Yeah, the folk singers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, well, maybe or not, it might be enjoyable for you to read. I read recently, which was such an easy read, which is Daisy Jones and the Six. And it's kind of loosely based on the Fleetwood Mac kind of story. Very, very basic.
It's on my bookshelf right over there. I need to read it.
Once you crack it open, I actually was staying at an Airbnb, and I'd seen it around, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And I opened it, and it was like, I feel like it's kind of really helped me kind of get back into reading again. So I go through waves.
Oh, excellent.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's so easy to read. It's fun. Okay, finally.
Oh, good.
What piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Just keep going. Just keep going.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It goes to that dedication and patience that you were, or stubbornness, I should say, that
Yeah.
you were saying about
Stubborn.
before, which I can relate to as well.
The patience, I've had to work on the patience, Natalie.
That's from having children.
Yeah.
That comes with children.
Yes, yes.
Well, Alana, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for joining me today on the podcast. It's been such a delight to share you with the listeners of Imprint, because it's been so wonderful to connect with you within Design and Grow, and really grateful that our paths have crossed and that you are such a
Me too.
a wise font of words and knowledge and experience. And everyone's got a different story. Everyone's been on a different journey. And so I think when we come together and we share our experience, it's, like I said, I think it's so powerful. And it's really the sort of stuff that you can't get anywhere else unless you actually put yourself in a room with the right people. So I'm so glad that I'm in the room with you. So thank you so much for being here today, and within Design and Grow, all you do there as well. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.